this concept that we now talk about rights as entitlements. People, you know, I've already been asking this campaign on national TV, and I say, well, isn't it true that everybody has a right to medical care? The answer is no, they don't have a right to medical care. What we have a right to is our life, our liberty, and our ability to pursue our happiness, and that is to work hard and keep the fruits of our labor. Very much convinced that if you have a free market to provide the goods and services, that you will provide the maximum beneficial medical care for the most number of people. It is not going to be provided through the welfare state or socialism, because even though some may seem to have an advantage, it's always at the expense of the system, at the expense of liberty, and it ends up and participates in the bankruptcy of the country. So when they give us this stuff about entitlements being rights, it's a gross distortion of what the whole concept is, and will actually do us much more harm. This contradicts what the founders wanted and what they have given us, a Constitution that is very uniquely designed. If you read the Constitution very carefully, it is a list of prohibitions. And they're not prohibitions against free individuals, they're prohibitions against our government. I'm also convinced that the problems that we face today, and they are many, could be solved rather easily. I believe that for the most part, we've gotten ourselves into this predicament, mainly because we have ignored the Constitution, and we can get out of our problems by merely going back to the rule of law and looking to the Constitution and looking to our founders on the advice they gave us. Yeah. Gift. Somebody sent it to me in the mail. It was a newspaper. It came from Massachusetts, and the date on the newspaper was 1803, when Jefferson was president. At the top of the page, it had a Jefferson quote: peace, commerce, and honest friendship with all nations, no entangling alliances. Appropriate for me to have that, and I thought that was really very, very nice, because that says so much, and it teaches us so much, and that is a lesson that we have forgotten, especially in my lifetime. In the last 100 years, we have gone astray on our foreign policy, and there's no reason why we can't come to our senses, and we have to do it soon, because countries that overextend themselves, even the wealthy empires, the powerful nations, they inevitably stretch themselves too far, and they end up bankrupting the country itself. And I'm afraid that is going to happen if we don't change our plans. There's no reason in the world we can't resurrect the founding fathers of foreign policy, and that of the Constitution, and that is mind our own business and bring our troops home. That war for a long time. The Persian Gulf War actually started in the early 1990s. We're really continuing that same war. Although I wasn't in office at that time, I spoke out strongly against the dangers of getting involved. But I became very outspoken against the war that I saw coming in 1998. In 1998, we passed the Iraqi Liberation Act, which was overwhelmingly passed to support the Clinton desire to have regime change in Iraq. So that's how long the plan has been around. But this whole issue of intervention overseas and spreading our empire is not unique even with the last two administrations. It's been around a lot longer, and that's why we have to challenge the philosophy that they are following. Actually, the person who was most responsible for this was Woodrow Wilson, who got us involved in World War I unnecessarily. And this is what has happened. World War I absolutely did not require us to go over there. But it led to Depression times following, it led to World War II. And when were the lines designed in the Middle East? After World War I, and that's what we're still fighting over. So it is this notion that we can participate in telling people how to live and for us to get involved in their affairs is something that doesn't make much sense. And this is precisely what we were advised not to do. But you know, they say very often, well, the way you talk is you want to bring the troops home and doing this, you won't vote for the money here, you didn't vote for the war, why don't you support the troops? Well, I'll tell you what, just think how many troops would be alive today if they had our foreign policy. Dissenters, those who do not agree with us, come and tell you that we don't support the troops. Ask them why it is our campaign that gets more donations from the military people than anybody else. We got the same amount of money as all the other Republican candidates put together for military. The assumption is always made that all the veterans are going to be for this careless entry into war, and that is not true. Veterans of this country went to war and fought, and guess what they fought for? They fought for our Constitution. That's what they fought for. And we too often, especially since World War II, we're going to war almost endlessly without a declaration. Just think about if the members of Congress would follow the rule of law and never allow a president to go to war without a declaration. If we had not done that since World War II, just think of the benefits that we would have received. So it's very simply that you're not allowed to transfer power from the legislative branch to the executive branch without a constitutional amendment. And that's literally what we have done. We allow our presidents to go to war. And this is such a serious responsibility. It was meant that the founders wanted to make sure that the king couldn't go to war, the leader couldn't take us to war, the executive branch couldn't take us to war. It had to be by the Congress, the body is closest to the people. And under these circumstances, you know, when I brought the subject up in the committee, they told me that part of the Constitution was anachronistic. To bring up this issue of the Constitution. And yet now, what are they doing? They didn't want to debate it. They didn't want to assume the responsibility. Guess where they are today? We're debating the war. A little bit too late. But my argument is, they say, well, there's going to be chaos if we leave Iraq. Yeah, there could be. There could be. We don't know exactly what would happen. It didn't get nearly as bad as they predicted when we would leave Vietnam. We don't know what would happen, but we know a couple things. We know that Americans would no longer be killed, we would no longer be spending money, and we also know that the chaos is there not because we left, but because we went in.